Hey everyone, it's Derrick here with Moist Sauce Productions, and today we are driving a 2017 Chevrolet Cruze LT, limited time. I don't know what LT stands for. Anyways, we're in the LT model, and this LT model comes with a 1.4 liter 4-cylinder engine. It has a 153 horsepower and 177 pound-feet of torque. So, not to mention, it's a 1.4 liter turbo engine. I think they call it EcoTec, and it's very similar to the EcoBoost engine. It's a very small turbo. I think Chevy tunes it slightly different than Ford does, and I'll get into a little bit of that when I talk about the performance. Now, let's talk about the exterior. The exterior of this car looks fine. Looks very similar to a lot of other vehicles in the segment, and quite honestly, I wish it would stand out just a little bit, but it doesn't look bad, and I think it looks pretty decent. So the color, it's a gray color, so it's pretty plain Jane. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I'd probably prefer it in blue. Chevy's blue is pretty nice, and overall the looks, I think it looks pretty nice from the exterior. There's a lot of chrome trim everywhere. I'm not a big fan of that. The side view mirrors are pretty nice. I like from the interior, looking at the exterior, that the A-pillars are pretty small, so there's this little window on the sides here that allow you to see a lot more than normally. These are just ginormous A-pillars, and I really like that those are there. Looking at sort of the exterior portion with the headlights, they're halogen. I wish they were HID or LED bulbs. It does have an LED strip on it that looks really nice, but with the halogen bulb, it kind of looks bad. And yeah, overall, the size of this car has gotten much bigger than it used to be, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. I like that this was a smaller car before. Chevy has a look that the Malibu and the Impala look like, so this carries that over. The rear portion of it is a little sloped, so it intrudes on the head space of the rear passengers, but it does look a lot better than some of the cars that are more boxed off. And yeah, the exterior is fine. I would prefer it in a different color, and as you move up on trims, you get a little bit of features here and there to make it look a little bit better, but the chrome trims still exist, and I don't like that. So the exterior, take it or leave it. It's very similar to what a lot of cars look like in this sector now. So let's get into the interior portions. The interior is really nice. It's comfortable. I don't want to say it's really nice, but it has its perks and its flaws. I would say the main issue with the interior is the materials. There's hard plastic just everywhere. Everything sounds hard plasticky, which is not something. I mean, it's like a $22,000 economy car. Most small sedans have hard plastics in most locations, so I would prefer there to be them to hide it a little bit better. There's just hard plastic everywhere, which is something that I wish that was a bit more refined, like the Golfs, even the Ford Focus has a little bit better materials than this. And looking around, gauges are fine, steering wheel's fine. It's kind of like a plastic, soft plastic material. The soft plastic, I wish that was all around the dashboard and on the doors and whatnot. So it's hard plastic everywhere around here. I do like that there's a lot of storage on the inside here. So there's storage here, there's storage here, there's storage for your phone. There's two cup holders here that are quite large enough for anything. And yeah, overall, there's just a lot of storage here. There's map pockets down here. You can put your phone in this little pocket here. It's lined with plastic, so that's not that great, but yeah, there's a lot of storage space everywhere in the interior. There's nothing really out of the ordinary here. There's a USB plug here, and it does have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which is really nice, and it has the cigarette lighter, so you can charge your phone and stuff like that. And in the rear portion here, there's also a USB plug, which is also nice. There's minor gripes since I've been in this car for a few days here, and one of the gripes is that the seats are really nice and comfortable, but there's a little plastic piece that sort of rounds the seats, and when getting out of this seat multiple times, like 5 or 6 times getting out of this seat, I sort of sat on the plastic, and it hurts. So that's something that I would just be aware of when you test out the car. Make sure, I'm pretty sure if you have the leather seats that wouldn't be an issue, but with these cloth seats, which are very comfortable, that is an issue in my opinion. A small gripe, but a gripe nonetheless. Now, talking about sort of the center stack here, does everything make sense? Yes. And you have sort of buttons for everything. You do have a 7-inch touchscreen, which is really nice, and a 6-speaker audio system, which it's okay. It's not that bad, but I'm sure it's a hell of a lot better than the 4-speaker on the base model. And screen's pretty good, but the backup camera resolution is terrible. So yeah, if you're looking for a really nice backup camera, this does not have one, or you can also go into the aftermarket and install a good one. The plastic pieces on here are lined in like basically chrome everywhere, and on the AC vents there's chrome. There's just chrome everywhere. The doors are chrome. There's a piece of chrome on the steering wheel, and the reason I don't like chrome is because the sun shines off of it and just basically blinds me. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like it. Now, talking about the spaciousness of the interior, it's really nice. There's a lot of space. The only issue in the rear seats is that when actually trying to sit down, there's a little hump, and that sort of gets in the way of your feet when you're trying to crawl into the car. So other than that, that's probably the only issue about the rear seats. The trunk space is ginormous. I can probably fit like 4 or 5 small carry-on suitcases that you can carry on a plane, and that's really nice. So yeah, like I said, these cars are getting much larger, so the storage space of these are just tremendous. There's so much space, and I can't emphasize that enough. If you're looking to sit 5 adults in here, you definitely have enough room. Sitting behind myself, I'm 5'10", once again, and my torso is a lot taller than my legs are, so keep that in mind when you're talking about rear seats. I have like 6 or 7 inches of rear seat room from my knees, and that's a ton in a small sedan. And yeah, it's really nice that there's that much space in here. Now let's talk about sort of the infotainment here. Like I said, buttons for everything here. It does have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. One weird thing that I saw with Google Maps was that when you have a destination on here, there's basically, it's really odd because it basically has some messaging on the front here, and it pushes over the like where you are centered. So it's really odd that it does that. Also, there's in the center cluster here, in the like where the speedometer is and whatnot, there's within the first road section here, there's a spot for navigation, and it says no active route. Now this car does not have a navigation system other than Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So it's really weird that has that, and when there is an actual place that I'm going to, it does not show me that in the center stack here. So the reason I complain about that is because I don't want to keep looking here. I want to keep my eyes straight and just peripherals looking down to see, like, okay, in 0.5 miles I have to turn right, sort of thing. So that's something that I dislike, and I wish that was a little bit better. Overall, has Spotify, has messages, has Google Maps. I haven't been able to try this with Android Auto, but I've tried it with Apple CarPlay, and it works really well with Siri when wanting to answer messages, when wanting to make calls, when wanting to cancel routes, change songs and whatnot. It has Spotify integration, it has Waze, and it has Google Maps, which is really awesome. And like I said, can't complain about that. Let's talk about the performance of this car. Like I had mentioned, it's a 1.4 liter turbocharged engine, and it has 153 horsepower 153 horsepower and 177 pound-foot of torque. And it's mated to a 6-speed auto, and it has auto start stop for the engine. So when I'm fully stopped at a stoplight, it will turn off the engine and then restart once I lift off of the brake. It's not really seamless, but it's miles and miles better than that Audi A6 that I had, the TDI that I had in Germany. And yeah, like I said, it's really not that bad. The only issue that I have is that you can't turn it off. And for the Audi, I was able to turn it off. So I would prefer, I would love to be able to turn that off. So overall, the miles per gallon for this car is really good, and that's probably what you'll be looking at this car for. In the city, you can get up to 28 miles to the gallon, and on the highway, you can get up to 38 or 39. And that's really awesome for a car in this class with a 1.4 liter. They're basically trying to downsize in the actual engine. So instead of a 1.6, instead of a 2.0 or 2.4 liter 4-cylinder, they're giving you a 1.4 liter turbocharged, so you can get close to the amount of power that you would get in these cars in previous years, naturally aspirated, and you can get better gas mileage if you drive it efficiently. Obviously, it depends on how you drive it. So I've been driving on the mixture of in the city driving and highway driving, I've been averaging 33 miles to the gallon. So that's really, really good. Performance-wise, is it quick? It's not quick, but it's peppy, to say the least. It has some pickup, but basically if I just floor it here, like the torque you can definitely feel, and it definitely feels like a more powerful engine with 177 pound-foot of torque. It definitely it gets up and goes, and this car's just under 3,000 pounds, so it's and there's that auto start stop, and then let off the brake, starts back up, pretty seamless. And the only problem that I have is when I go to start and stops, when I'm sort of just rolling to a stop, sometimes the car turns off, and then I want to go, and then it's like still off, and then it tries to turn itself back on. So that's one of the issues. But back to sort of the performance. Acceleration wise, it's pretty decent. The problem is that it dies off really quick. So if you're just driving around town, like I'm at 45 miles an hour and I'm trying to change lanes, floor it, it's not instant. It downshifts and then gets going, but I think it takes a little bit of time for the turbos to spool up. So that's a slight issue, but I wouldn't say it's something that I would be too worried about. It's definitely within the realm of error, within the realm of its class. These cars definitely have a very similar, like whether it's the Sentra, whether it's the Civic, these cars all have a very similar feel when it comes to acceleration and the downshifts. Now, what I've learned is that there's an L, which I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be for like low, but this allows me, it has like not paddle shifters, but on the top of the actual shifter here, it gives me a plus and a minus sign, so I can downshift it. So other than that, there's no other modes here, so this is me being downshift. And it's pretty responsive, or it's really not that responsive, but at least it does something. At least it allows me some control, because there's no sport mode or anything like that. And yeah, it allows me to stay up in the higher RPMs, and right around 3,000 to 4,000 RPM is where I feel like I get the most kick. When I'm in the lower gears, or when I'm in the lower RPMs, I don't feel that much kick. So it's not as low as like a Volkswagen GTI, which you get peak torque like starting at like 1500 RPMs or something like that. And this thing isn't like that at all. It's more higher revs to actually get that. And same with the EcoBoost Mustangs and all the Fords. Those are a little bit more lower RPMs that they respond with more torque, or they get peak torque at lower RPMs, versus the Chevys, it seems like they're a little bit higher and you have to bring them out a little bit more. They'll fizzle out at the top ends, but this car has a 7,000 RPM red line, so it sort of dies off after like right around 5,500. Let's talk about the steering. It's okay. It's not great by any means, so don't look at getting this car if you're looking to get a car that's really sporty. It doesn't weigh that much, but it also is still 3,000 pounds, even being as small or quote unquote small as it is. But if this thing was around 2,500 pounds, it probably would feel really quick and really nimble, but it really doesn't feel too inspiring. It's not bad, and it's not worse than the Corolla that I drove, or it's not worse than the Honda Civic that I've driven, or the Nissan Versa. It's pretty on par with all of them. None of them feel too inspiring, so just take that with a grain of salt when you're driving this, or make sure you test drive it and test drive them back to back. From what I can remember from those other cars, they were very similar to this. It did not feel like they respond pretty decently, but there's still a little play, and you definitely can't feel what those front tires are really doing. And yeah, other than that, no real special features in this car. It's very big for a small sedan. It competes very well with the Civic, the Corolla, the Forte, the Sentra. All of those cars are well within, or this competes very well with those cars. Talking about brakes, this car has four-wheel disc brakes, and that's really nice for maintenance. It's very easy, and they're not very large by any means, but they do the job. Talking about the interior noise is kind of loud on the highway. It's not too bad, but I wish it could be quieter. I wish there was more sound deadening and sound insulation, but yeah, it's not the greatest, so keep that in mind. It's no luxury car by any means, but the ride is pretty decent. There's not too many undulations. The ride, like the suspension is really soft, so you don't have to worry about, you know, feeling like too sporty, or you know, having the suspension be too hard. But yeah, in comparison to the rest of the cars in the segment, I think there are better values. This car specifically, MSRP is right around $22,000, and I think that's quite high. I would definitely recommend it. Is it best in class? I think best in class really goes to the Mazda 3 when you're talking about drivability. When you're talking about features and budget, you're probably looking at a Forte or a Elantra, or an Elantra. The Mazda 3 does not come with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, so keep that in mind. The Elantra and the Forte do, but those two have 1.6 liter engines, and they do have naturally aspirated ones, but I think the gas mileage is better on this car. So if you're looking for a car with great gas mileage and pretty decent features all around, like I said, in this day and age, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay is a must, and this car has it. Lots of cars still don't have it, so if you're looking for a car that has good MPG and doesn't cost that much, and you know, has decent features all around, and yeah, is unassuming, and if that's what you're looking for, this is definitely the car for you. If you're looking for performance and fun to drive, then this definitely isn't the car for you. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.